I am William SRD, Professor of Anthropology at the University of Internet, and I am here to offer you my thesis on a little-known tribe of savages known as the Streamers. Although it may seem surprising to we enlightened and civilized YouTubers, these Streamers actually seem to talk about similar topics to what we do. Up until now, this has been difficult to discern, as they hide behind their inscrutable languages. Words like POG and KEKW has convinced our enlightened minds that these Streamers are little more than chimpanzees, and yet I have discovered that there is in fact meaning to their raving. Case in point, upon my arrival and integration within the Streamers, I realized that I am what is called a YouTube frog, or sometimes a YouTube Andy, depending on the tribe, which my translator assures me means that they have perceived me as a god. How quaint. The YouTube and streaming communities actually have a lot to offer one another, which makes it an absolute shame that the two communities are so separate. Now, odds are that if you are watching this video, then you are most likely more of a YouTube kind of person, so you can consider this entire thing to be a huge grab bag worth of content for you to get started with watching streamers. Or maybe you are a veteran to streaming, in which case you may be checking this list to see if your favorite streamers are on here. And, in case I missed them, please leave them down in the comments below. I am going to make a follow-up for this video. It was basically just infeasible to create a single list that would contain all the biggest D&D streamers, and that's not even accounting for the fact that I really make an effort to find a lot of smaller streamers and stuff for these lists as well. This video has a couple ground rules, so let's quickly cover them. And if you're not interested in our sort of housekeeping kind of stuff, then you can just use the timestamps down below and skip right into the recommendations. I am not including actual plays within this list, and the reason being is that actual plays make up such a huge percentage of the overall amount of streamed content that it's probably better off if they are in their own separate list that I will do at a later date, because otherwise there would just be no room for anyone else in this list. However, there is a notable and big exception to this. I am including individual streamers whose primary content is actual plays. As in, it is a streamer, you are therefore one person mainly, and they are in like 3 or 4 different actual plays, they do one-shots, they do different campaigns, lots of variation. People like that are eligible to be on this list, because to me, that feels more like you're signing up for a streamer who does actual plays, rather than signing up for an actual play. And is that an arbitrary distinction? Of course it is. I'm just going off of vibes here. Last thing before we really get into it is that this video exists primarily to spread love to all these streamers. But I got a CTA somewhere, so let's just get it out of the way right at the start. I'm William SRD, and I make lots of different types of TTRPG content on my channel. They're mostly meant to be for an RPG audience, rather than always being about TTRPGs. And that can take a few different forms. That can include, I'm doing a series right now on various meme RPG systems. I have done the role-playing games that were played in the distant past, as in role-playing games that were played in medieval times. And in a couple weeks, I have a series coming up, which is like a true crime documentary thing about various murders and stuff that were connected to the Satanic Panic. So if any of that sounds good to you, then scroll on down, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Now, enough about me, let's talk about the people who really matter. The craftspeople of the streamers who inhabit the highland plains of Twitch and YouTube have been able to create a hitherto unknown product using their stone tools. These strange creations are known as chats, which are generally speaking completely foreign to the ears of we traditional video makers. These video makers often use these chats to cover all of the same topics that a traditional YouTube video maker would. However, they managed to do so somehow completely off the cuff. My research and the research of my peers at the University of Internet have suggested that these individuals may simply be built different.
When you hit that moment and that first that first session is now scheduled. It's in the books, so to speak. Everything changes, at least for me. As a game master, the whole tone just changes. It goes from like, bar top talk. Wouldn't it be cool to play D&D together someday? Hey, sure, yeah. It goes from that into like, oh man, I got things to do. I got stuff to think about.
Runehammer is a man who needs to be on camera. And I don't mean that he needs it, I mean we need it. If streaming didn't exist, we would need to find some other way to get him on camera all the time. It doesn't matter what he talks about, he's just so fascinating and eclectic, and he's got this energy when you watch him that just makes it addictive. And we're lucky enough that what he has chosen to talk about on camera is tabletop role-playing games. This precious golden lab of a man talks about campaign updates, he talks about systems that he's working on, and kind of just general stuff related to tabletop role-playing games. And honestly, it doesn't matter, because Runehammer is the star of Runehammer. He is the selling point, he's what you want. So do yourself a favor and go check out his stream.
The character is left with this choice to make, and that's right, I'm talking to you, the person who's watching this. You're going to leave a comment on the video of which option you want the character to choose.
Esper the Bard is one of those creators who gave me a really hard time to try and pin them down. There were a lot of people who were very interested in having him on my YouTube guides. However, when I was researching him, I couldn't quite decide as to whether or not he was a YouTuber or a streamer, and I opted to save him for my streamer guide, but now that I've done that, I'm second guessing it. Esper the Bard is somewhere in between, which actually makes him a really great entry point. If you like YouTube videos, then you should check out some of his more traditional YouTube content, and then once you've built up a little bit of attachment, you should try and catch him live. You're gonna have fun. I promise.
But I just have this feeling like, of all the shit that happens, Treebeard's sitting there and listening to the hobbits babble about hobbit lineages and who's related to who. I think he would love that shit. He would want to collect that shit like Pokemon.
The Matt, the myth, the legend. You probably already know about Matt Colville. I mean, come on. But you may or may not be acquainted with his stream. You can watch him world build, you can watch him talk about different projects he's got on the go, and talk about just life in general or other interests he's got. Basically, the whole stream is like, if you like Matt, then here's more Matt. So just go watch him do all sorts of things. And none of those things that he's doing on stream are finishing the Ratcatcher trilogy. I am not letting this go. So like with Esper, Matt Colville streams are going to be a great way to get used to streams if you're more of a YouTube person, because you probably already know and love Matt. So it's a great way for you to acclimatize, figure out what you like about streaming, and then you can start spreading your wings and find a whole bunch of other people you like. Although most work done up until now on the nature of streamers have suggested that they are simply attempting to copy our enlightened ways, we have in fact found a form of video content that is near completely foreign to YouTube. Many of these things go far past being simply called a chat and begin to resemble something akin to a talk show.
I love these alignments that you all are posting. I consider myself lawful sexy. Did somebody clip that? No, don't clip that.
You've seen LegalKimchi on my Critter's Guide to YouTube, but did you know that he's got a stream as well that is substantively different content than what he does on YouTube? Kimchi brings in people from all over the TTRPG space for nice informal chats. It's like D&D talk radio. Kimchi's had on game designers, he's had on YouTubers, and even fellow essayists. It's one of the best streams to watch for a nice, varied look at the industry.
Hello, and welcome to TTRPG News. This week in the world of D&D, we've gotten a couple of really interesting things that have come out. This has never been done before for any actual live show or anything really involved with D&D. outside of some really horrific movies that were made in the early 90s.
Don't knock them too well. Okay, I can't say much about it.
Thank you. Shush.
Party of Two is a really great Twitch stream that often covers RPG news and community talking points that have happened over the course of the week. Haley and Weston have lots of talks that are easy listening and extremely informative. This channel is a really fun and entertaining way to keep up with the goings-on in the hobby. It offers not only speedy coverage, but it also has generally waited long enough after the initial news that they're usually working off of a little bit more context than you would get elsewhere. This is obviously very different from YouTube, where the incentive is actually to put out a video on any form of news, like the second it's out. So this is a really good way to get away from a lot of the kind of knee-jerk reactions to RPG news.
I need the troll to affect my hair.
Don't we all?
I have less. I need more.
This one is a weird one, because the DM Roundtable is not a channel, it's a show that rotates who's hosting it all the time. DM Roundtable is a large circle of creators hosted by How to D&D and Wally DM. They meet every single week to answer all sorts of questions. I personally have been invited on recently, so I will be appearing from time to time. The DM Roundtable is a really great way to keep up with your favorite creators and to just hear what they have to say about the games they've played. Okay, so as I said, it rotates who's hosting it and where it's going to be streamed, so how do you find it? And the easiest answer is that you should go and follow Wally DM and How to D&D on both YouTube and Twitter, and keep an eye out for their community posts, because they'll always be telling you where you can find it every week. Some streamers actively attempt to make the lives of academics like myself difficult by refusing to stick to one single easily defined categorization. Perhaps they may be gamers in addition to their TTRPG careers, or in other cases they simply have their fingers in so many pies that it becomes impossible to state exactly what they do. Despite the best efforts of myself and my peers, these individuals have thus far resisted missionaries from the Church of Nicias Christ.
Speaking of Dice Goblin, I keep it very close to me.
RekItRaven is one of those creators who doesn't force themselves into a box when they don't need to. Raven talks about a lot of TTRPG stuff and runs an actual play on their channel, but that doesn't get in the way of gaming out like a champion. I find that one of the things that we struggle with a lot in the D&D space is that sometimes we kinda run out of stuff to talk about, but RekItRaven never has that problem, because she only talks about it as much as she wants to. This stream is one of those places where you can go to hang out with the TTRPG community without any pressure to always have to talk about TTRPGs.
What if I ate a cat treat on stream? Oh jeez. It's like stuck in my teeth. Oh yeah, it's just in there. Are we starting a wave of like meeting people for the first time and the first thing they've ever seen is me eating a cat treat? Oh shit.
Well, as of now, yes. Listen, I work really hard on my YouTube channel, but looking at StellaLuna, well, they just make me look completely lazy by comparison. They stream video games and TTRPGs. They participate in like 3 actual plays a week. They're also a paid DM and a graphic effects designer. Stella, where are you getting this free time? Can I have some? StellaLuna reminds me a lot of a bunch of friends of mine, so this is definitely the sort of stream that I just find innately entertaining. But if you need more than just vibes, then here's the deal. One of those actual plays that I mentioned is a Strixhaven game that is open to the community. It's also open to newcomers who have never played the game before. So if you're looking for a stream where you may actually get the opportunity to be on the show and interact with the streamer, then StellaLuna's stream is for you. The various craftspeople of the streamer tribes are a rather diverse lot, with some of them covering things like sketching or even designing games. And to the surprise of many of my peers at the University of Internet, the streaming craftsperson actually possesses a skill at their craft equal or even exceeding that of the traditional YouTube craftsman.
we're just going to be doodling and making fun of stuff. We got a whole bunch of suggestions on the community post that I will be drawing some of. We're going to roll a dice, and we're going to draw the ones that we roll.
Much like with Esper the Bard, Rook0 is one of those creators who sort of straddles the line between streamer and traditional creator, which makes this channel a very, very good one to enter into the streaming space. The channel covers a whole bunch of D&D race guides, and it also does a weekly live stream in which they will basically draw whatever character you want them to. If you're looking to have one of your characters drawn, but you don't have money to commission someone to draw them, well, Rook0's stream is a really great way to get it done. However, I think if you actually want the JPEG or the PNG, I believe you actually have to be subscribed to them on Patreon, which honestly is fair.
Today, I'm going to be doing some freehand work on Kelly's speed. She's pretty much done, as you can see. Like, everything else is... I feel like I was on a shopping channel there. Everything else is kind of done.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Do you like it when you're on a stream and there's these like lovely lo-fi, low-key kind of vibes while they're painting a highly intricate model, while the host has a very soothing and pleasant British accent, and they're talking to you about your day? What, you don't like that? Well, then I wasn't talking to you. I was talking about literally everyone else on the planet. Look, are you having a tough day? You probably are, okay? Life is stressful. Go hang out on Electric Eve's stream. You're gonna feel better.
I hate myself. But, like, it's hard for me to make games that stay small sometimes because I'm just like, but this would be cool if you had this, if you had this, if you had this. And then I'm like, oh shit, this is big now. Cool. Great.
CutestPatoot is a TTRPG designer and live streamer, and they actually managed to make writing games far more entertaining to watch than I thought it would be. Listen, they are a great entertainer, they're very funny, and they always have just the most incredible design ideas. Pretty much as soon as I started watching one of these design streams, I realized that they were going to have some incredible works on their store page that we could cover in our meme series, and I took a look, and I was not disappointed. So we're actually going to be covering one of their games, Forever 41, pretty soon on our meme system series, maybe next week, I don't know. Point is, the CutestPatoot is going to have you laughing, whether it's in stream or in a game that they wrote. Okay. Quick clarification before I start the next clip, because something happened that just altered the way I was going to do this segment, so I'm re-recording it now. Both Dungeon Dad and Zero Doxy were independently on this list. Worth noting, they are actually a couple. Now, Zero Doxy's content was never super TTRPG focused. However, it was very much like a kind of a TTRPG community welcome. She's a part of the community, she appears on actual plays, and she talks about it on occasions on her channel. And for me at the time, I kind of thought, you know, that's probably about enough. However, I actually had the opportunity today to meet both Dungeon Dad and Zero Doxy on a panel, and after mentioning this video to them, Doxy kind of mentioned that she didn't really consider herself a TTRPG streamer, and that led to me spending the last 2 hours pacing back and forth, questioning, am I being too lenient on who counts to be on this guide or not? And what I eventually decided is that the best approach is just to merge the two of them as like a package deal. Like, the D&D streams you should check out are Dungeon Dad stream and Zero Doxy stream, like, in combination with one another. This seems like the best compromise to me.
I'll give you a prize if you remember what their names are.
The son was Buddy.
You actually got that one right. The son was named Buddy. Could you, like, imagine you were, like, opening up a new set of Magic the Gathering, and you're like, oh man, I got Perforos, God of the Forge, and oh, what's this rare card? Oh man, I got Buddy of Akros? Hell yeah, dude, that's a sick card.
Dungeon Dad is one of those people who kind of bridges the gap a little bit between being a YouTuber and a streamer. However, if I had to categorize him, I'd actually probably call him more of a traditional YouTuber. However, just like with LegalKimchi, The streaming content here is substantively different from his YouTube content. Dungeon Dad's stream is a stream in which he is painting miniatures and talking to you about D&D. If you like Dungeon Dad, and you already might, then you're gonna like his stream. But Dungeon Dad is just one half of the power couple. Doxy is also a crafting streamer, albeit not a D&D focused one. Her mainline content is a potent combination of crochet and true crime videos. And I know that a friend of mine who watches these videos has just opened up another tab to find this stream. As I said, TTRPG community is welcome, but not the focus. And I gotta say, suddenly and frantically needing to rewrite and re-record this section has left me with a bit of a migraine, so I'm gonna go to sleep, but you can continue on to the next section. Much as the humble emu must train its children in the ways of war upon Australians, so too must the streamer train their chatters to make war upon TTRPGs. Some do so by explicitly tutoring their viewers. Others do it by demonstration through something called an actual play.
I'm beginning to think about building the encounters to show off the characters rather than building encounters that are challenging. And that is a big shift, and that's a shift I think a lot of DMs haven't made.
Sly Flourish is actually a fairly well-known advice channel on both Twitch and YouTube both. Sly Flourish is also known as the Lazy DM for his incredible techniques at streamlining his session prep. Now, maybe I'm just weird, but it usually takes me like an hour and a half of prep for every hour of in-game time when I'm prepping sessions. But Sly Flourish is able to do his entire session prep in about an hour, and he does it on stream while teaching you how to replicate his techniques. Listen, a lot of D&D advice you're going to find around the internet is not stuff that's actually going to be super helpful, but Sly Flourish's stuff is absolutely going to save you a ton of time as a dungeon master. Plus, he also runs a really great talk show where he just communicates with his chat and talks about the various goings-on in the hobby. Honestly, just a really great use of the format overall.
Did you know if you break apart a rock, you get even more rock? You're making babies!
Well, Alice, you're giving her the talk.
Now, the biggest thing that I'm taking away from my research into the Twitch community is the fact that the rift between D&D Twitch and D&D YouTube is even bigger than I thought it was, and I already thought it was a big rift, because Captain RoBear is an absolute leviathan of a channel on Twitch, and I had never heard of him. So, what can you expect from one of Twitch's best and brightest? Well, mostly actual plays. But like I mentioned at the beginning of this list, the caveat about actual players is that Captain RoBear is a person, he is not a playgroup. He runs a whole bunch of different groups, he brings on lots of different guests, a huge rotating cast of people, lots of different one-shots, different campaigns. You're gonna get a lot of variety. And as you would expect from one of Twitch's best actual players, the production quality is very high. You're gonna get really high-quality sound effects, high-quality storytelling, and fun voices and voice acting. All presented by a very likable host and the likable people he brings on.
I can change him. I can change Strahd. If he just met me, I could change him. He'd be like, oh wait, actually.
Another fantastic actual player with a similar format is Timelord's wife, who's doing their best to remind me that the days of Super Hulock were a very long time ago, and I will be 30 soon. Timelord's wife does actual plays, bringing on lots of cool guests for short adventures and short one-shots. Really nice vibe to the whole thing, and they're a great host. Now I know what you're thinking. Has she played the Doctor Who TTRPG? And as far as I can tell, no. Which can only be remedied by going onto the stream and demanding it.
Cleo pulls out her claws and her cat becomes this huge leopard. Jesus Christ!
Rustage is another one of those absolutely gigantic TTRPG streamers, and you can see why he's so popular. He's handsome, he's British, And most importantly, he inhabits a very lucrative niche. Anime and TTRPGs actually have a big amount of overlap with their fan bases, and Rustage is actually a very popular anime rapper on YouTube. But on Twitch, what he does is he does anime-themed actual plays. Now, obviously that's not going to appeal to everyone, but I'm willing to bet that a few of you just stood up straight in your chair and realized that this limey lad is about to dominate your life for the next few weeks. If you are going to check out his channel, please make sure you've stocked up on groceries first, because you're not going to be leaving the house for a while. Now that is a TTRPG streamer starter pack that you can be proud of. Obviously, I didn't get to everyone. If your favorite person wasn't on the list, please leave them in the comments. As I said, I'm going to do a follow-up sometime in the next few weeks, few months, as soon as I can get one out. And in the meantime, hey, are you interested in another guide about D&D YouTubers that you may not have known about? No? Well, then perhaps I can interest you in a video about the time that the American Secret Service tried to raid an RPG company. You're not interested in either? Well, I'm afraid I must insist, and you don't want to be rude, do you?